So imagine living an entire year next to a house infested with rats. The smell's so bad, you're forced to keep your windows closed even on a 90-degree day. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ann Trujillo.
And I'm Shannon Ogden, and that is exactly what life has been like for several Lakewood residents.
They weren't getting help from anyone until they contacted Denver 7. And tonight, the city of Lakewood is finally taking action and going into that rat-infested home.
Our Lance Hernandez has been trying to get answers for these homeowners for nearly a week.
Code enforcement officers wearing protective hazmat gear entered the house on South Lee Street to inspect its interior. They found extensive evidence of a rat infestation. No surprise to neighbors.
It's just been literally gross with the smell and everything else.
It has been frustrating, to say the least.
Jenna Mountain says she and her neighbors have been coping with an obnoxious smell from that house for nearly a year. They saw rats and suspected they were to blame. Today, those suspicions were confirmed when a trash bag from the property was tossed into the back of a garbage truck. There were dead rats inside.
When they ripped open the trash, that odor came out in full force, and it confirmed to me that what we have been inhaling has definitely been dead rat.
Last week, when these neighbors contacted Denver 7 to ask us for help, we went to check it out. Take a look as our cameras catch multiple rats climbing a rain spout or scurrying around by the fence. We even saw a rat on the roof.
You could hear them above you in the branches.
Kelly Houghton, who lives next door, couldn't believe the sheer numbers.
You could hear them by your feet, zipping by them, zipping between your feet. You can't explain it. It was a very badly made horror movie.
Today, Houghton says she's happy to see the officers in hazmat suits.
I know it's going to take some time. I know this isn't going to get resolved tomorrow, but we're getting somewhere.
So what's next? The city says it will work with the homeowner to try to get her to pay for the cleanup.
The other options have, you have to go back to court. Some of that can happen fast. Some of it may not. If she's issued a ticket, then a court hearing is set. It's not going to go that fast.
Lakewood City spokeswoman Stacy Olton says that until last Friday, code inspectors never saw evidence that rats were trying to gain entry into that house, and without that evidence, they couldn't get permission from a judge to get inside to conduct an inspection. We will keep you updated on the progress of dealing with that rat infestation. In Lakewood, Lance Hernandez, Denver 7.
It's incredible. Thank you, Lance. If you ever have a tip or a problem you think we should look into, contact 7 at 720-462-7777. You can also send us an email at contact7@thedenverchannel.com.
Yesterday's hailstorms were nasty. Some of us got some dents in our cars, maybe a broken window or two, but for some farmers in the Front Range, their livelihoods were washed away.
It was terrible. Golf ball-sized hail destroyed these corn crops in Boulder. Russell Haythorne spoke with the farmer who owns the land, and Russell, it's hard to tell what that field even resembles.
Yeah, and this is what a healthy stalk of corn should look like this time of year, and this is what it looks like next to what's left in this field. It's barely recognizable, utter devastation in the blink of an eye.
At least one more bite on it.
Corey Bateman has moved on to greener pastures, so to speak.
And we'll hit those and I'll just keep ditching.
He'd prefer to be working this field where his corn is still standing, rather than a couple miles away where his crop is decimated.
Nice, beautiful crop, just down to nothing in a matter of minutes.
He never intended for his corn crop to be minced and diced in the field rather than the kitchen, but Mother Nature had different plans.
For around here, normally you ain't got to worry about the hail. It's more out east. Get some of the pressure off of it.
Such is life for this 6th-generation Colorado farmer and his 7th-generation kids.
Let's go!
Leave it to the kids, like 9-year-old Diesel, to still find joy in this day.
Do you want to be on the news?
Diesel,
We'll put this in the shop, buddy.
who is quite the little farmhand,
So the side of your door?
The driver's side in my door, buddy.
describes how bad the hail was.
The hail is like almost like in the middle of like the size of a golf ball.
And it wasn't just corn that took a beating.
It really damaged lots of grass, lots of wheat, lots of corn.
Bateman and other farmers do have crop insurance, but it won't pay nearly what the corn would have yielded.
Insurance will just kind of cover, kind of your costs for the most part.
And through it all is this farmer's greener pastures optimism.
Being down about something ain't gonna fix it. The good Lord will provide, and we'll make it through it one way or the other. Our family has for 6 generations and hopefully 7.
Believe it or not, some of this corn should bounce back. Bateman says it's early enough in the growing season that these stalks can and will repair themselves, and they will produce an ear, although the yields will likely be lower, and it certainly won't be knee-high by the 4th of July. We're live in Boulder County tonight. Russell Haythorne, Denver 7.
Thanks, Russell. Colorado Springs had a hailstorm of its own. Thousands of cars and homes damaged, but Parks and Wildlife says more than 500 fish were also killed. Now, they say they actually died from the quick change in temperatures.
And developing tonight, after days of protests, President Trump signed an executive order to stop families from being separated at the U.S.-Mexico border. Thousands of children have been taken from their parents and housed in shelters because of the president's zero-tolerance immigration policy. Well, in today's reversal, Trump's executive order declares it is his administration's policy to, quote, maintain family unity. And even though the order has been signed, anxiety is still high for some Coloradans.
Right now, immigrant advocates are still putting pressure on Washington to come up with a permanent plan. Denver 7's Mark Stewart's live in Denver with the efforts taking place right now. Mark?
And Shannon, there is a lot of anxiety. In fact, right now, many organizations are taking part in all of this. Take a look inside here at the ACLU. They are having a phone bank right now, basically to keep lawmakers accountable. Immigration activists tell Denver 7 they are aware of dozens of recent cases where mothers have been separated from their children here in Colorado. According to researchers from Syracuse University, since 2005, there have been 5,088 juveniles in deportation in our state. Just half, over half, were not represented. The next step in all of this, comprehensive immigration legislation. The pressure is on lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. We talked to a protester today earlier at the ICE facility in Aurora.
There is a long and vulnerable conversation that needs to happen.
So this discussion is taking place. The ACLU, for example, is sending someone from its office here in Denver to Texas, again, to serve as a second eye, a second watch to all that is unfolding. We're live in Denver tonight. Mark Stewart, Denver 7.
A CSU student who locked himself to a bulldozer to protest a controversial oil and gas site in Greeley is telling his story for the first time. Police arrested Cullen Loeb in March, but his troubles didn't end there. Extraction Oil and Gas sued him over the protest, forcing him to fight both civil and criminal charges. Only Denver 7's Jennifer Kovaleski was inside the courtroom today as the two sides reached an agreement.
The civil lawsuit was dropped after Loeb agreed to never again go on Extraction's property.
Kids come up to you and tell you that they're scared for their lives. My heart was telling me, you have to do something.
This CSU senior did something drastic.
And every other method wasn't necessarily working.
The photos and video were all streamed live on Facebook.
Children are right over here. I was out there strictly just to protect the children at Bella Romero.
Strapped with a PVC pipe around his arm, 23-year-old Cullen Loeb locked himself to this bulldozer back in March.
You know, anything to stop this project.
To protest Extraction's controversial drilling site right next to Bella Romero Elementary in Greeley. These drone aerials show you just how close the rig is to where kids play.
I expected some sort of consequence.
Police arrested Loeb and charged him with trespassing, what he didn't expect.
I did not think in a million years that I'd be sued.
Incredibly unusual move that I hope doesn't become the standard for the multi-billion-dollar oil and gas industry.
In a statement, Extraction said, "We are pleased that the court entered a stipulated permanent injunction and says it recently announced plans to conduct 80% of all drilling and completion operations outside of school hours."
And what they wanted in that process was to have the activists turn over all of their cell phone records. In other words, it's back to naming names.
Loeb's attorney says they didn't give the phone records, but they did agree to permanently stay off Extraction's property.
The longer we were in court, the more of a platform this was going to be.
Loeb believes they wanted to scare him and other protesters into silence.
It's not working at all. I think, you know, them doing this just fires more people up. I don't regret anything at all.
What Extraction Oil and Gas is doing out here isn't against the rules. State law says that new wells must be 1,000 feet from a school building. This is. But what the law doesn't take into account is how close playgrounds or soccer fields are to these wells. In Greeley, I'm Jennifer Kovaleski for Denver 7.
And in the last half hour, Extraction tells us it asked for those phone records because they got a threatening phone call shortly after his arrest and wanted to make sure that he had nothing to do with it. Well, thanks but no thanks. Just hours after the website Politico reported the city of Denver was on the short list to host the 2020 Democratic National Convention, the city withdrew its bid, saying the July dates just don't work with the city's schedule. The mayor's office told us they didn't even know they had made a short list.
Well, you just got one step closer to being able to pack full-strength beer or wine for your picnic at a Denver public park. City council members just approved some proposed changes to the city rule. Now, the rule won't get a final hearing until next month. Right now, as you probably know, you can only bring 3.2% alcohol beer into parks. Well, you've got some deciding to do which day you want to see. Single-day tickets for Denver's newest music festival called Grand Doozy go on sale Friday, 10 a.m. Tickets start at $99.
We didn't feel like a family. She was gone.
A family dog missing for months travels over mountains and Denver city streets to make it back home.
We found her the first time when we adopted her, and this time she found us.
The emotional reunion between Winnie and her family that will have you in tears.
Radar screen looks pretty clean for a change. Coming up, our next chance for thunderstorms.
And AMC is coming after MoviePass, your new option for saving money on movies.
Next on Denver 7.
It is a Denver 7 exclusive. You might want to grab a tissue for this one. There's a bad feeling of helplessness and fear when your pet goes missing.
Sure, there's a feeling of desperation to find them, then the anxiety that they won't survive before you do. Well, the Denver family's been living with those feelings for months now since Winnie got separated from them in Evergreen.
And as the weeks passed, they never gave up hope. Teresa Marchetta shows us how Winnie finally came home.
After more than 10 agonizing weeks, navigating 30 miles of mountainous terrain.
Just today.
And losing 20 pounds in the process, Winnie is finally home.
I couldn't believe that our dog was right here, back. And where did she come from?
Eliza, Justin, and their boys were only going to be gone for one night to celebrate 3 of their birthdays in March.
She's our everything. I mean, we didn't feel like a family.
She was definitely a fixture in our household.
The Airbnb they rented didn't allow dogs.
We got a phone call like a half hour after we left her that she had jumped the fence.
They turned back to the dog sitter's house in Evergreen. It was snowing, and it wasn't like Winnie to run off.
We started calling her name, and when she didn't come after about 5 minutes, we started to panic.
We called the troops.
That was back on March 27th. Winnie was no stranger to hard times. She was a shelter dog, abused and chained outside as a puppy. It took a while for her to adjust to her new home.
We hike off leash with her all the time. She comes back right away to the whistle. I mean, she doesn't ever go out of our sight.
They started with flyers and posters like this one, at least 500 of them, and they didn't stop there.
We hired a tracker with scent dogs to try to narrow down an area of where she might be.
Friends launched the Facebook page Help Bring Winnie Home. They plastered social media with pictures and videos.
We'd get a sighting and we'd get so excited, and then we'd go out there and put trail cams, and then we'd get nothing on the camera.
People they didn't even know let them put trail cameras and traps on their properties in Evergreen. Eliza even camped out in her car overnight in someone's driveway.
It was her. I saw her. She didn't even see me. I had her bed out. She didn't even smell her bed. Nothing registered. Like she was just in survival mode.
Weeks flew by. The sightings started to dry up, and there was talk of scaling back the search. All the while, they never knew that Winnie was already homeward bound. On June 5th,
11th in a coma,
Winnie was spotted.
She was just blocks away.
Inside a locked building on the other end of their Baker neighborhood in Denver.
They don't even know how she got in. She was just on the landing of the staircase when they came into work.
Alone and on a mission to get back to her family, Winnie made it to Denver. Justin got the call from the people who found his cell number on her tag.
The generosity of people that we have never even met and didn't know us is completely overwhelming.
The amount of humanity that really got to shine through during this has been incredible.
She had survived frigid nights, lonely days, and a long journey home.
We found her the first time when we adopted her, and this time she found us.
We should say Winnie's full name is Winnie Cooper. She was named after the character from the show The Wonder Years. Now, she has been home for almost 2 weeks. She did have a few ticks and fleas, but incredibly, otherwise, she is perfectly okay, just needs to gain a little weight, and her family thinks this is truly a miracle. I'm Teresa Marchetta, Denver 7.
That's what you need. That's the story you need today.
Welcome home, Winnie. That was
great. I think I'll take one.
You
It
were
was the
worried
first,
about us.
the first Benji movie, I think, was that roughly that same plot.
And we all sobbed.
Nice.
Yes, beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about our weather, shall we?
We can, and it's beautiful for a change.
Thank goodness.
Ah, look at that lovely shot from Loveland Ski Area. Great looking day, and equally nice in Denver. Those clouds are gentle. They might have a little gray in them, but there's nothing to worry about. Nothing on the radar screen. It's going to be a great evening. 78 was the high, 52 the low. 99 and 39 are the extremes. That 99 was just last year, and 84 is the normal. Right now, it's comfortable. 73. Pressure's rising. Winds out of the northeast at 15. It's a nice, quiet evening. We do have an ozone alert for tomorrow. Some warmer temperatures are going to come our way, and that's going to increase the low-level ozone. But for tonight, the storm is all off to the east of us. We're going to just be a nice, quiet couple of days here for the most part. Overnight low temperatures tonight are going to be very nice. There's maybe an isolated storm just down on the Palmer Divide early on. Otherwise, mainly clear skies tonight. And by morning, the lows are going to drop down to some really delightful readings with about 53 in Denver, 37 at Leadville, 52 out at Akron. Front Range, low to mid-50s. Open up the windows tonight, 40s in the mountains. Tomorrow, beautiful, pleasant morning. And it's going to stay a very nice day tomorrow.